Okay, in today's video, we're going to be creating the popular horizontal weekly layout. I will be walking you through creating two different versions and then spicing those versions up a bit with our doggy theme. I actually will be creating both versions with the doggy theme today. There are so many more ways that you could create a horizontal planner, but hopefully I'm going to show you enough today to give you a strong foundation and a good starting point to create one of your own design. So let's go ahead, jump into InDesign and get this thing started. So of course, the first thing we are going to do when we are in our planner here is we are going to have to create new planner page, parent page layout. So click the plus, we're going to right click, parent options, and we are going to rename this horizontal 1, or at least that's what I'm going to name it. All right, we're going to start in the right section here. And by the way, if you're working and you want to know how I am very quickly zooming exactly into the page, you can hit Command 0 and that will zoom right into the page so you can see the full page. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is we are going to start with a box. We're going to come over to our rectangle tool, and then we are going to draw out a box that is margin to margin width, and I want it about 2 inches high. So roughly 2 inches high. And then of course we are going to apply our object style to make this match the rest of our planner. And I have that over here under object styles. If you do not see your styles panel, you can come to Windows, come down to styles, and then you have them all here. Click in and we'll bring it up. And mine's over here in this toolbar. Now, this object style is something that we created in episode 8. So if you have not been following along with the series and you want to know how to create this object style, head over to episode 8 and I show it there. For now, I can't show it in every video, so we are just going to use it. And that's going to give us our 0.5 stroke, 70% black, and our rounded corners. That's step number 1 done. The next thing we are going to do is we are going to create another box. This one is going to be 2 by 2. So to create a 2 by 2 box, if I know exactly the size, I'm just going to click and I'm going to make this 2 by 2. And I'm going to come over to object style and I'm going to again apply my object style. Now, this box is intended to be added on top, or rather within this box. You could just add a line here, but that will not allow you to fill this box. If you would like to fill it with a color or a pattern or anything else, which is something we are going to do in the doggy themed. So this is the way I am doing this. So what I need to do is I want to line this up exactly on top of that box so I can select both. We're going to select the back box to make it our key object. And I am now going to center it. Vertically, I'm going to center it. And then horizontally, I want it to be lined up all the way to the right of that object. So it's right over top. Now, they have, because we've applied the same, it should fit perfectly on there. But this looks a little bit weird with the corners rounded here. I don't know, maybe you like it, I don't. So what I'm going to show you today is how you can adjust only the 2 corners here to make them square again. So there are 2 ways that we can go about changing these rounded corners, because we only want these 2 changed. We don't want these 2 changed. So the first thing you could do is you can click your little yellow box here, which gives you your yellow diamonds. If you want to just move or change one corner, what you're going to do is you're going to hold shift while you click and drag over, and it's going to only change that one. The other thing that you can do is you can come over to your corners here, click corner, and make sure that this little link is broken so that you're changing one at a time. Because I did that, it changed them all. And that way you can just change the corner you want. So with this broken, we're going to change this down to 0. Let's look at the preview, and it's going to change only that corner. That's another way that you can change it. So now we have our corners are rounded perfectly the same here, and we have a straight line down here, and that's what we are looking for. Okay, so now we want to add a text box for our date, and to do that, we are just going to use our type tool, and we'll just draw out a little box here, and we are going to go ahead. I'm just going to type in 1 Thursday. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to apply our weekly layout days that we created in the last episode for the vertical planners. Again, if you didn't see that, you can go back and check it, or you can just adjust this to how you want it, the size, the color, the font, so on and so forth, and you can create a new style if you would like to do that. We've gone over that multiple times, so what I'm going to do here is I don't want this centered, so I'm going to change that to center left. Align left, I'm sorry, because I'm going to want this to be in the corner here. That's where the date's going to be. We can adjust it in the minute if we need to. All right, so what we want to do next here is we want to add some lines. I'm going to go ahead and create a table. Create table, so table, create table, and we're going to do 5 rows, 1 column. And I'm just going to draw this in here. I don't like to go right to the edge. I like a little bit of a gap. I just think it looks better, but that's totally preference. All right, so now we need to select the table so we can make some changes to it. So with your cursor in here, you can right click, come down to select and table, or you can use the shortcut Command Option A or Control Alt A. Let's go over to our styles. We're going to go to our cell styles. If you don't see the styles, come up to Window, Styles, just as I showed for the object style. Again, this is something we created in a previous episode. This one was episode 5. So if you have been following along and you want to see how we created that style, you can go over to episode 5 and check it out. But we are just going to select lines, which is going to just give us our horizontal lines that are 0.5 and 70% black. Okay, so I'm going to come back and select this, in the table and select it again. Now that we have that, we want to adjust our size. So we're going to come to cell options. So right click, cell options, rows, and then I am making these exactly 7 millimeters and hit OK. Now, these are our lines. You can adjust the height how you want. You can take a line out if you want. This is just basic. Shift this a little bit. All right. So that's the basic horizontal layout we're going with here. What I'm going to do, because we're going to copy and paste these for the other days, I'm going to go ahead and group all these together. So just dragging a box over to select them all, I'm going to hit Command G or Control G to group. All right, so now what we need to do, this is at the top. Let's bring this to the top margin. And we need to copy this down 3 times. So I'm going to click, hold Option, hold Shift, and drag down to make a copy. Leave a little bit of gap there. That looks good. And I'm going to repeat that. You could do that 2 ways. You come up to Edit. You can either hit Duplicate and then duplicate again, or you can say Select and Repeat and just say 2 times, and it will duplicate that twice. Now, as you can see here, we have a little bit of a gap. So if we want to just make this, fill this in, we can do 2 things. We can either increase our space between, or 2, we can make this a little bit, each box a little bit bigger by simply dragging or selecting all of the boxes and clicking on this little box at the bottom to drag it down and make all of the boxes bigger. You can do that as well. Okay, so that's what we're working with. Of course, you want to go in and change all of these days, but I am first going to click and copy to the left now. Of course, there's 7 days in the week, so we only need to copy 3 of these over. So we are going to select the bottom 3. We are going to hold Option or Alt and Shift, click, hold, and drag over to the left page. And now we've made our copies and we have our 7 days of the week. Now all that's left is I'm going to add a little check, priorities box up here, and then we're going to add a mini calendar, and that's it for our first horizontal. Let's go ahead and start with our mini calendar. If you've been following along, you've already seen this a few times, but we have to do it again in case anyone is just jumping into the series now. So to create our calendar, we are going to come up to table, create table. This table is going to be 7 by 7, and we're going to hit OK. And now we need to draw out our table, and I'm going to be drawing this roughly 1.5 wide by 1.7 high. You just want to get kind of close. So 1.5 wide by 7.3. I'm just going to fill in this little area. Okay, so we want to select this entire table because we need to get rid of these lines. We don't need them. So again, right click, go down to select and table, or you can just hit the shortcut. All right, and now in order to get rid of all these lines, we want to make sure up here that all of these lines are selected. So they're all lit up blue, all horizontal and all vertical. And once those are selected, we're just going to say 0 point, and it will have gotten rid of all of our lines. Now we can go ahead and make our little mini calendar. I am going to make it Sunday through Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday. If you're not seeing some of the letters, you have these little dots. That is because whatever is in that box is too big to be shown. So you either have to make them smaller or you have to adjust some settings. So first thing I want to do is we already have in a previous video created paragraph style for our mini monthly headers. So I'm going to use that, and then I'm going to start there, and then I'm going to bring down the size until we can get rid of all of these little dots. And there we go. So that brought it down to 7. Next thing we want it's already centered here. If yours is not, then you want to hit align center, and now we want to center it vertically. To do that, you're going to right click, cell options, text. And then over here for vertical justification, we are going to center. If you don't like how small the text is and you want it a little bit bigger, but you don't want to necessarily make the calendar bigger, you can also decrease the cell insets. That's the padding or the spacing around from the edge of each line of the cell or stroke of the cell. So if you lower that, you could get those a little bit bigger, but we're just going to leave that for now. It might look small on your screen, but when it's printed out, it will be bigger. Now I want to go and I want to add the dates here. We also created a paragraph style for that as well. We have our mini calendar dates. I'm going to go ahead and just select that style, but if you didn't follow along with those we created in the last video, then you can just go ahead and select your desired font and start off with a smaller size. This is just so we don't have to keep repeating it over and over again. So let's go ahead and put our dates in. I'm just putting some random dates in, by the way, so don't think that this is what you should be doing for January. But I can't even see what I'm typing here, so who knows if I'm typing the right numbers. Yeah, I definitely didn't because I'm way off. Okay, so let's make these smaller so I can see what I'm typing. Maybe about 7. We have it centered. Again, with all of that selected, we're probably going to have to, yeah, it looks like center vertically. So cell options, text, vertical line. Okay. We still have some numbers that are too, there we go, too small, and I definitely messed something up here. Now, this extra row is because some days are going to start are going to go into a 6th row. For mini calendars, you're not going to split boxes, so you want to make sure you have an extra row. And I really just add it in there to make sure that I have extra room. So for a month that needs this extra row, I'm not having to readjust everything. But when, because there's no lines, when it's printed, you won't even see that there is a row there. Okay. All right. So now we're good there. The only thing left to do is to create our little title for the planner, which would be January. January. Let's go ahead and do that caps. How about that? January 25. Of course, I'm going to want that centered here, and we are going to apply our mini calendar month. It's a little bit big, so do I like that? It's a little big. I'm gonna make that a little bit smaller. Once you make this smaller, you're gonna see this plus over here if you're using a style. So that just means that you've made a change. So you may, if you want to keep things as neat as possible, you may just want to go ahead and create another style and just call it maybe horizontal weekly calendar month or something like that. But that's up to you, because if you change a font, sometimes when you change the font, it makes it a little bit bigger or smaller. It doesn't necessarily fit in the space as well. Maybe there's more space between letters, or there's some extra like little wings or feet. But it's not always the exact same when you change the font. Let me show an example here. Yeah, see, that one gets a little bit bigger. So as you change the font, and look how much wider that one is, it just depends on the font, right? So if you go change this size, and then you change the font later, and you have this applied to another page with a different size, and you change that size, you know, it could just create some problems later when you're going to make adjustments. So I really kind of always suggest just creating a new style. But at the same time, if you're creating a style for every single thing, you're going to start getting confused. So just use your best judgment on what's going to work best for you. Okay, let's go ahead and move on. So we're going to add some lines. I always like to separate them. You don't have to. I mean, you could really just leave this as it is. You can change the color of this font to something else to make it stand out a little more. You know, that didn't work. I forgot to, sorry, you have to hit text and then change the font. So you can change the font like that if you want, instead, to just separate the days. But in some kind of way, I like to separate the weekday labels from the dates themselves. Just makes it easier on the eye to follow it up. Again, you don't have to. Like here, look, they're bold, so you can leave that as well. But anyway, that being said, I'm going to go do my traditional thing that I've been doing throughout the planner. We are going to add a stroke on the top and bottom only. So make sure only the horizontal lines are selected and nothing else. And I'm going to add 1 point. So we're going to just change this to the peach color that we have. There we go. We have our top and bottom line in our planner there. Okay, the last thing I wanted to do here is to create another box, a priorities check box. Okay, so we're gonna come over here to the rectangle tool, and I'm just gonna fill in the space. I mean, it really doesn't matter what the size is, okay? So I'm just gonna fill in the space here. So I'm gonna go ahead and I'm going to apply our object style, our box's object style that we've been applying. It's so nice that that's all you have to do. And I want to create some checkbox circles here. So I'm going to come over here. And again, if you want to access the other tools that are in here, I think I said this in the last episode, you're just going to click and hold, and then it will give you the other options. And if you want to create, if you know the size you want to create, just click, and then you can type in the size. I am going to go with a 0.1939, and click OK. And now I want to change this. I don't want it to be black. So I'm going to make this a little bit thicker so you can see it better, which is sometimes just helpful when you're picking like a lighter color. And I'm going to go with the peach color so it matches our little planner over here. Click OK, and now I'm just going to come drag it over here as a checkbox. I am going to copy and paste these 3 times. I'm just going to click, hold Option, hold Shift, and drag down to create another one. And then I want to create 2 more, so I'm going to come up to Edit, You can do duplicate twice. You could do duplicate and then go back and do duplicate again. Or you could just do this step and repeat and just repeat twice. Okay. I feel like these are are well spaced. So I'm going to just go ahead and I'm going to click each. I'm holding shift to continue to click or to select. And then I'm going to group them together with Command G or Control G. And then I want to center it vertically in this box. So I'm going to go ahead and also select the outside box by holding shift and clicking. Now let go of shift and click again to make this outside box the key object. And now I'm going to come over here and I'm going to center vertically just so that it's perfectly in the center here. If these were not grouped together first, all of these circles are going to end up in the center on top of each other. So you want to make sure that you group these first. So if that happened, if all of your circles, it looks like they disappeared and you just have one here, they just line them all up on top of each other, it's because for some reason you didn't group them. So just undo, go back. And that's it. That's all we got for our first horizontal here. It's quite simple, very functional. And now we're ready to move on to horizontal number 2. So in order to do that, we're going to come over here, hit our plus. You're going to right click, parent options, and rename this horizontal 2. I guess I still have my cap locks on. And we are going to start working over here. Okay, so to start us off with horizontal 2, we are going to copy and paste the calendar because, well, we don't need to do that again. So I'm going to select the entire calendar, Control C or Command C, and then come over to our next spread or new spread and click Edit Paste in Place. So it will put it right up there where we want it to be. Now I am going to create some checkbox sections. If you followed along with the last episode of the series, the vertical, we did this in the vertical video. It's basically essentially going to be the same, and we did this over here in the vertical video. But in case you are just joining in for horizontal because that's what you want to make, then we will do it again. This time we are going to start with the habit one this time first. Okay, so to create our habits checklist, what we are going to do is we are going to create a table. So come up here to table, create table. We want this to be 3 rows and we want it to be 7 columns. Okay, and now we are going to drag this out roughly. Just make sure the height is big enough to fit everything. You could do it the whole size of the counter if you want. We will resize it. But what I want it to be is 2.25 inches wide. All right, now we're going to select the entire table and we are going to apply our cell styles of lines. And now all that's left to do is to adjust the height. So we're going to come over here and right click, cell options, rows, columns. We are going to change this to exactly 7 millimeters. Okay, now we have our desired setup. We want to add some circles in here. So the first thing we need to do is we need to draw a circle that we can copy and paste. So I'm going to come over here to the ellipse tool. If you're not seeing it, click and hold and to get the box and ellipse tool. I know the exact size I want, so I'm just going to click to bring up our little box here, and I'm going to say 0.1845 and click OK. I'm going to change this to 0.75 to make it a little bit thinner, and I'm going to do my 70% black. And now we have our little circle. Now all we need to do is we need to copy this circle, so select Command C or Control C to copy. Come over here, we're going to click in our first box and we are going to Command V or Control V to paste. This little circle is indicating that this red dot is indicating that the circle is too big to show in here. So we are just going to adjust this slightly, this table slightly. I am going to just, in order to shift it all evenly, to adjust them all evenly, you hold shift. We're just going to make it We're just going to make it a little bit bigger until we see that circle appear. There we go. And now, as you can see, it is not exactly centered within that box. So I'm going to highlight this column so that I'm going to highlight all of the columns, highlight the entire table so it's all adjusting at the same time. So highlight the whole table, and we're going to come over here to paragraph to center within the text horizontally. And then we are going to right click on the table, cell options, text, so that we can center vertically. So change this to center. Okay, now our circle is perfectly aligned in the middle. Now I can just come down and paste it in the rest of these. Now to quickly paste it in all the other boxes, because this is going to be a habits table, we need 7 days of the week. Highlight the entire column and Command C or Control C. And now highlight the next column, Control V. And do that until all the boxes are full. Okay, now we have our the week part of our habits. I'm going to go ahead and drag this way because I want to add the lines to actually write the habits on here. So what I want to do is I want to add a new column to the left. So I'm going to highlight this first one. I'm going to right click. I'm going to say insert column to get this box. And I just need one column and I want it to the left. So check left and click OK. So now we have another box with just the lines. Let's make this frame bigger. These frames are a bit on the annoying side sometimes. And what we were going to want to do is we want to make this row wide enough to bring us all the way over here. So you're just going to grab onto that stroke there, that first vertical line, or rather second vertical line, and just drag over. You don't have to hold shift or anything. It's going to move all of those over and make that one, the column wider. And there we go. Just going to move this over a little bit. Okay, now all we need to do is we need to add a title. For this particular, I'm going to bring this up. I want to line it up with the top of that calendar. There we go. And I'm going to add a title up here. So I'm going to add a text box. You could have done it. If you saw in the last episode, I did create this with an extra column up top. An extra row, and then you merge it together in order to create the header, but it's not really necessary. You can just do it as a text box, and that's fine too. So I'm going to center this. I'm going to say habits, and I am going to use the style we created last episode for our section headers to make that a bit bigger. If you didn't follow that video, you can just go ahead and change the font, the size, make it a little bit bigger, make it how you want, and create a style that way. Those are the habits. Now we want 2 more below here. I want to create 2 smaller ones down here. One's going to be top priorities and one is going to be next week. So I'm going to copy this down. Okay, so I'm selecting the whole thing, and then actually let's not even select that for now. Let's just select the table. And then I'm going to hold Option Shift and I'm going to drag down just to make a copy. We want this to fit, to be half the size, but we only need 1 row of these. We don't need all these extra, or 1 column. We don't need all these extra columns. So I'm going to come in here. I am going to click in the table, bring it overhead till I get my little arrow. There we go. And then click, hold, and drag over to select all of these. Right click and delete columns. So basically, I need these to be on the other side is where I want these checkboxes to be. So I'm going to copy this row, Command C, Control C, and I'm going to paste it here and then delete these guys. I'm just going to delete the contents in here, not the actual columns. So all I need to do is highlight it and hit delete, and it will delete the contents that's in there. And I'm just going to resize this first column. And in order to resize it without resizing the entire thing, hold Shift, and it's just going to resize that 1 column. I'm just going to bring it down so that we're over here, so that this is over here and the lines are over here. And actually, since I want to do 2 here, I'm going to have to bring this in a bit. We don't need lines that big. So don't hold shift this time, and I'm gonna bring this in. I don't know about how far we need to go. I'm just eyeballing it for right now. And we can resize the frame. And then I'm going to hold Alt Shift and click and drag over to make a copy. And I want that lined up on that side. That's fine. I mean, that gap's fine, I think. All right, now we just need to make our headers. So I'm just going to copy this. Again, Option, Shift, hold down. And then what I'm going to do is I'm just going to drag this box to make it the width of there. And then I'm going to, again, copy this over. So this is all should be the same. Let's see, do we like the gap? I think I'm going to bring this down a little bit more here. I think I want a little bit more of a gap here. Not too much, not too bad. Now let's just rename these. We're going to say top priorities. Top priorities, and then this one will be next week. Okay. Now, the only thing left to do is to draw our horizontal boxes. So I'm going to draw one box here. I know I want 3 here and I want 4 on the other side, right? So Sunday or Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then the rest of the days. So I'm over here. We're going to grab our rectangle tool. We are going to make this box margin to margin width. The height doesn't really matter at this moment in time because I'm just going to use this box to figure out the height of the box that I need. This is just a little trick that you can use to make it a lot easier when you're creating your designs. So I'm just going to go ahead for now and apply my object style boxes. And I know I need 3 boxes, so I'm going to copy and paste this down. Hold Alt Shift and copy and paste down. Sometimes it will make the first box disappear. If you undo and redo, then it'll show it there. It just makes it easier to see where you're lining up. How much of a gap do I want? That's fine. If that's fine, that's the gap that you want, then I can go ahead and I can duplicate that again. And I have 3. Maybe I want to make it a little bit closer. So let's go. This is what you want to focus on first, is how big of a gap you want here. That's the first thing we're going to focus on. We have all 3 boxes that are the same width. What kind of gap do we want here? Rather, they're all the same size. I'm going to go ahead. I have 0.04 in here from last time. I think that that's fine. So I like that gap. Now, I want these boxes to fill the rest of this page, right? This is how big I want it to be. So the easiest thing was to create those 3 boxes. And then when they're all 3 selected, you grab the little box on the bottom and you drag down and it will resize all of them evenly. And now you have like the perfect size boxes that fit in there. And that's the easiest way to do it, I think, rather than trial and error and going back and resizing this, that, and whatever. Now what I'm going to do, which you might find a little bit strange, is I'm going to go ahead and just delete these 2 boxes. Reason being is I want to add some stuff in these boxes. And it will be easier for me to copy and paste these down once they're fully done. That way I'm not having to copy and paste each part down and lining them up correctly. I don't know if that makes sense, but I now know the size that I need. So I'm going to look at this size. I want to create that box over to the right here like we did in the first horizontal. And so the way I'm going to do this now, because you could look at this and you could say, oh, the height is 1.9031, and you can make another square that way if you want to. Or you could just say copy, Command C or Control C to copy, and then Command or Control V to paste. And now you have another one that's the same height. You can just put it over top if you want. And now you can just drag the side over to create the width that you want. And we are going with a 2.01 is fine. I'm looking over here while I'm resizing it. Or you can look at the little box that shows up to the right. All right, so now we have our box here, and if you remember how we just did it before, in order to adjust these, I'm just going to, well, we could go over here. Let's just do that. And we're going to make this 0 and 0. Okay, and now we have our straight line here, and we're all lined up. So the next thing I want to do here, I'm going to put some circles in here. What I'm going to do so it doesn't get in my way for right now is I'm just going to go ahead and select these two guys, and I'm going to go to layers, and I'm just going to lock them so they don't move around while I'm trying to add these other things to them. Sometimes that makes it easier. So what I want to do is I want to add some dots here. So I'm going to make some circles. So come back over here to our ellipse tool. I'm going to click, make a circle. These are going to be 0.174 just because I already tried this out, but you can just click and drag to see, you know, the size that you may want. And for these, I'm actually just going to fill them with one of our colors. We're going with the, what do we have here? The peach. So we're going to go with the peach, but again, I messed up. I don't want the stroke. I want the fill. So I'm just going to come over here and I'm going to click this to switch stroke and fill. And now, excuse me, I have it filled. So I'm going to bring this in here and I'm going to make 4 copies. So I'm going to click, hold, and drag it down. Again, it disappeared so I couldn't see the distance. So I'm going to click, hold, and drag it down. And that's okay. And then I'm going to duplicate that twice. So I'm going to step and repeat 2 times. And now I have 4. Now I don't really like, well, I only want 4. So I need this to be a little more distance between. So we're going to come over here. I want to remember this. This is, oh, sorry. So I want this to be a little more distance between. So it's a little more even from the top to the bottom. So I'm going to, with all of these dots selected, I'm going to select the first one to make it my key object. And I'm going to come over here and I'm going to distribute spacing. I just want to make note to remember 0.04 was what I had between these, because when I copy and paste, I'm going to want to use that again. So I'm going to make these a lot bigger because I don't want them close together. So let's start with 0.14 and just see where we're at. I am distributing these vertically. You can see the little arrow there, and that's still way too close. So let's go ahead and bump this up to 2 and see what that does. And that's looking a bit better. So maybe I'll change it to 2.6. And that looks good. That looks good. So I'm going to group these together. And then I want to center it vertically here. So I'm going to have to uncheck the box, one of the boxes. They're both the same height. And then click here. And then, so I have them both selected. So I held shift to select both, or you could just drag a box over both. And then I'm going to select the outside box to make it my key object. And then I am going to center vertically, which apparently it was already centered because it didn't even move. All right, so I'm going to lock that box again. Oops, sorry. Lock that box again so it doesn't get in our way over here. So now I have my little dots there. That's what I was looking for. I want to come over here and I want to add some lines. And I want to add the date like we did on the other. But this time I'm going to change the date just a little bit. Ooh, I'll show you. So let's drag this box. What I'm going to do, we want this centered, is I want the date. So we'll say 1. I want it above the day. So I have this above the day. I'm going to go ahead and use our paragraph style for week days. And I want this to be, let's resize this box a little bit. I want this to be up in the corner here. Okay, so I like this kind of stacked here in the corner. It's a little bit different than the other one that we did. So this time when we create lines with a table, this is what we're going to do. Let me show you here. We are going to do a table, create a table. And I think last time we did, 5 rows? But this time we're going to do 2 columns instead of, actually, we may only need 4 rows because these boxes I think are a little bit shorter. But the important thing is we want to do 2 columns, and I'm going to show you why in a minute. So let's go ahead and let's create this table, and let's make it basically almost the full box. Again, I like a little bit of a gap around the I don't like the lines all the way to the end, so I leave a little gap around. And we are going to select this table, and we are going to use our cell styles of lines and keep the table selected, and we are going to make this 7 millimeters, 7 millimeter height. Let me see what I'm working with here. You know what I might want to do? Let's go ahead. What I need to do here, because I'm trying to add a line there. Let's go ahead and add, I want to add another row. Quite simply just click in the, select in the bottom row and hit tab. Oh, I have 2 columns, so hit tab twice and it will create another row. Okay, that's kind of what I want here. And so that looks good, but what I don't want is a line going through the date, right? So that's why we've created 2 columns. So what I want to do is I want to resize. First, I want to resize till I'm close to here. I'm going to resize this first column again. So as I'm grabbing this to resize, I want to hold shift. So I'm going to get it kind of close to there. Maybe I should have typed Wednesday just to kind of see where we're at. And now that I have that column, the width that I want, I'm going to come here, highlight this little cell, and I'm going to get rid of that top line so it's not going through. So we're going to get rid of that stroke. So with only this top line selected, let's say 0 point. And now when we look at it, we have this extra top line, but we have the date here. You can then, my suggestion would be send this back so that you can access that date easily. You want it on top because when you go to change things, the dates, to update the dates, then you're going to need to click on it. You're going to want to click on it easily. So you can kind of just center it in this spot. And let's just make sure Wednesday fits. That's always the longest data type. And that fits there. So that's fine if you want to do that. You could also just not have a line up here and just have a gap if you want. But it's just a different way to do it. Let's leave that as Monday. And so now that's thinking about it that way, you can, move the columns around and then just remove strokes to kind of create the look that you're going for. The other thing you could have done was the other method that we've gone through in previous episodes where you use the underline method. I just really try not to use that method because it's so hard to get the lines the exact size that you want, but you can do that. Okay, so now we are done with this. What I want to do is I want to group this whole thing together. And that way, to group it together, you got to unlock the layers that were locked. Otherwise, those will not be grouped with it. So unlock the layers, group, so everything is grouped together. And now we can hold Option and Shift, drag down, and make our copy. It doesn't matter where you drop it. We're going to go ahead and duplicate. So we have our other box. Okay, so that's pretty close. I don't think we need to go and adjust it anymore. That's as close as I'm going to get it. So now what we need to do is we need to drag this over. And I'm actually going to bring this all the way to the top here. Let's go ahead and bring this to the top. We need to copy and paste one more of these down. So yeah, I was just going to add a box to the bottom here just to fill it in. It's just a little box the customer can do with what they will. They can cover it with washi. They could put another checklist, maybe make a habit tracker. Well, there's a habit tracker up there, but okay. So I made my little box just to fill in the space and then use the object style. And now there's a little box down there. You could add, maybe if you think it looks a little weird, we can add the grid to it that we created in episode 5. I'm just going to come over to here. I'm going to copy and then go back here, and I'm going to select this box, and I'm going to go edit, paste into to add those dot grids. And now we have a little dot grid section on the bottom for the customer to do whatever they want to do with. And that is our second horizontal. Has definitely more. The first one is definitely simpler. The second has a little more going on, but those are our 2 examples. So now what we need to do is we need to go make our doggy planners. our doggy themed versions. And of course, I'm just going to copy and paste the layouts because there's no need to do those all over again. So the first thing we need to do over here in the doggy planner is hit plus to add a new layout. I am going to rename this as horizontal 1. Come back here. Let's go back to horizontal 1. I'm going to copy this entire thing. So drag a box over the whole thing, Command C or Control C to copy. Come back to our doggy planner, edit, paste in place, and there we go. What we're going to change here, we are going to, let's start with changing colors because these are not the colors for our doggy planner. So I want to change the top and bottom stroke, get rid of these vertical lines, make sure our horizontal lines are selected, and we are just going to change the color, change it to the pink. I'm going to, again, this is another reason I like to have things grouped because it's one click versus trying to click all of them. I am going to just change that to pink. Not a big difference, really, because the pink and the peach are pretty close. But I am going to add a little PNG here. Let's add this guy here. All right, don't want to go too far. It's all right if I'm over the box edge a little bit in the margin. I just don't want to go too far. I'm going to turn him a little bit to give him a little more character. That's fine. And then I am going to send him to the back. So right click, arrange, send to back so that the lines are above him. And I'm going to bring down the opacity. If you've been following with the series, this is something you've seen over and over again. Now, new thing I wanted to do here is I want to fill these boxes with some color, which is why are not, there we go. Those must be grouped together. If something's grouped together and you're trying to get a hold of something or change something that's in the group, you just have to, so like if I click this once, it's selecting the whole thing because it's part of a group. If I want to select only part of that group, I would just double click on it again. And you can keep narrowing down depending on how much you have grouped. So double click it. Or you can ungroup it. So what I want to do is I want to fill this box here. That's why I want only this box selected. And I'm going to give it a fill of our blue color. And the blue is a little dark, so considering you want to be able to write in here. So I'm going to bring down this tint a little bit. Just a little bit. All right. Now I want to rotate. So I want to have this one be the pink. So again, I'm going to click and then double click so I can select this box. I'm going to choose a fill for the pink, and then I'm going to bring the tint down until it's something, you know, reasonable that I think won't get in the way of writing in it. And there we go. So now to fill the other boxes, I'm simply going to double click to select just that box. And then when I come to this fill color, double click on the fill color to the left here. I'm just going to take my little dropper, click, hold, and drag it over to the blue, let go. You see it's changed to blue, and then click OK. And so that'll give me that blue color, and I can do that again for here. And now we have our boxes. We got some color, we've got a PNG, and we're looking a little cuter. Okay, that's really all I wanted to do with this first one. So let's go ahead and let's do something with the second one. So I'm hitting plus. I'm renaming this horizontal 2. Sorry, I'm trying to get through this as fast as I can for you guys. Horizontal 2. We are going to go back to our horizontal 2 over here. Select all. Command C or Control C to copy. Come over here, edit, paste in place. And now we're ready to make any changes that we want to make. All right, we're going to do the same thing with the planner here, where we are going to change the top and bottom. It's already selected. We're just going to change it to the pink. Okay, we are going to do something similar to what we did in the last episode with the vertical. I want to create a box here behind And I might have to bring this down a tad and in turn bring this down a little bit just so I have a little more room. Okay, and now let's go ahead and round the corners a little bit. Maybe we round them, but round them just a little bit less. Okay, that looks good. And so what I wanted to do is I wanted to fill that box. So because I had selected the color as the stroke, I'm going to go ahead and just hit this to switch the stroke with fill. Was I not? Oh, I was selected. Where was I selected? There we go. Okay, so I also, I need to shift this over this way too. I want to make sure I'm staying in my margins. I need to send this to the back because it's covering the whole thing. So I'm going to right click, arrange, send to back. And now I need to bring the tint down because it's kind of hard to see and it will be hard to write on. So let's go bring this tint down so that we can still see. Of course, add some little PNGs in here. So I'm going to go ahead and add those real quick and I'll be right back. Okay, so I've added these cute little PNGs back here. So of course we need to bring down the opacity because they will be kind of hard to write on. So we can bring those down so that they're just chilling in the background, but they're not going to get in the way. And there we go. That's it. It's easy peasy. We have jazzed up our planner a little bit with our doggy theme. So that's really it for today's episode. I hope that you learned something new and that you're able to come up with some new ideas. Please let me know in the comments if you have any questions or if I didn't show something that you need to know. In the next episode, we will be creating hourly, weekly planner layouts. So make sure you subscribe, hit the bell notification so that you don't miss it, and I'll see you in the next one.